Alright, welcome back. This is my video series, How to Build a Neck-Through Bass. This is part 31. For this installment, we're going to be doing the fret dress and the polishing. Alright, last video we dialed in the setup. We made sure everything in the fretting surface was nice and level so that we get clear notes with very low action throughout the entire fingerboard. That is dialed in. It's now time to crown the tops of the frets, dress the little corners on the ends, and then polish everything up. The methods I'm going to show you today are methods that were taught to me by a legend luthier named Eugene Matisco. You might, if you've heard of Gene, he's known for his outstanding acoustic guitars. They sell for 30 or 40 grand. Gene has been doing his thing for over 40 years. Originally from Pennsylvania, I believe. I met Gene back in 2005 or 6, and he began teaching me fretwork, luthier work, and I was exposed to a master doing his thing. I didn't even ask for it. That inspired me to eventually get into doing setup and repair work on other instruments. And I just carried his methods with me all the way into what I'm doing today, currently as a builder, and I've been having very good results with them. So just to preface all of that with, this is not the way to do it, this is a way to do it, and this is how I do it. There are many different methods of doing what we call a fret dress. So I hope you enjoy this. I hope it's informative and educational and entertaining. We're going to take the strings off, obviously. It's kind of hard to do this with strings on. You have to take them off. I think that we can agree upon. Whenever I change the tension on a neck, I try and do it evenly. I don't want to loosen the G and the D and then walk away from the bass for hours on end. I don't want to create an uneven pool of string tension to, create the equivalent of a twist. Just try and keep that in mind as you're putting strings on the instrument, taking them off the instrument. Be good to the neck, be good to the truss rod. They are designed to move, but they're not designed to be mistreated. When I tie up my strings, I don't cinch a tight knot, because I don't want to create a kink anywhere in the strings. That's all I do is one overhand, over and under, and then leave it at that. I'm going to set these on a table. You're going to go through a lot of this tape if you get into building, so just plan on buying a lot of it. If you have a Lowe's or a Home Depot or whatever hardware store around, you're going to want to be sure that they keep plenty of this blue painter's tape on the shelf. So this one goes alongside the fingerboard and over the sides of the pickups all the way to the tail end of the instrument. Same with this side. And then we're going to go across with it. What this is doing is covering up the top portion of the instrument that's focused around the pickups to make sure that no metal flake or dust gets pulled down to the pickups. There's magnets in there, and that's going to attract this metal residue that comes off this fret wire. And we don't want that getting down inside all around the pickups. That could cause some issues. Alright, so that's good. Now we're going to reinforce alongside here. I've got this sticky back 3M stuff that's padded. This makes a nice barrier along the side of the fingerboard, because when I go to dress the beveled side here, I don't want to scratch the top of the instrument. Just a short piece here. Also, you can see, if you look closely, this is kind of trailing up. This goes on the very top front of the pickup. It's very easy to run a file this way and then put a ding in the front of your pickup, so it's okay to put some padding there that if you accidentally do bump it, it's got a barrier and you won't scratch it. Alright, now we know from our previous testing that all of these fret tops are nice and level. Each one of them has a railroad track top flatness to it. So what I'm going to do is take a black Sharpie. You can use your color of choice, blue, red, green, whatever shows up, and I'm going to mark over the top of each one of these frets. You can do this without the Sharpie method. You just have to have really good lighting in your shop so that you can see when that top flatness is gone when you go to crown these things. I'm going to show you that here in a sec. Some of you might not even know what crowning a fret even means. Well, we're about to see that in a sec here. The Sharpie method just makes it to where there's no chance of me screwing it up. I think when I first learned this method, Gene taught me. He did not use a Sharpie. And I even asked him about that because I had heard about the Sharpie method from some other guy, and he kind of scoffed and said that, well, that's Bush League, you know, amateur hour. But I don't think so. I think if you can do anything that helps you turn out a better product, anything that helps the odds be more in your favor, I'd say do it. All right, those are all marked. We're going to take our crowning file. Another one from StewMac. This has a medium side and a large, or a wide side, medium and wide. I'm using medium. You want to find a crowning file. I don't know if you can see that, but it kind of has a cupped shape, and this has got the diamond grit in it. You want to find a shape that fits your fret wire nicely. If you're using jumbo frets, you're going to have to use the wide side of this file, but I never really used jumbo, so this side is like new. Alright, I'm going to start on the body side of the bass. And I want to be careful not to scratch the bass. I know I say that a lot, but that really is an important thing. Using the medium side. I'm just going to go over the top of this fret very gently. And I want to look and see that Sharpie begin to go away. I only want to see a trace, a thin little band of that black on the very top crown portion of this fret now. And if I did my leveling right, there's very little material I have to take off of each fret. I'm going to go ahead and get up to the 12th fret here. I have to hold the file backwards and use just this side of it so that I don't scratch the upper horn here. Just going to work on these ends. Okay, now we're going to go back and do the rest of the fret on these. I'm not pushing very hard. I'm just kind of letting the weight of my hand and the weight of the tool do the work. Now we have access to the full fret without the upper horn being in the way. And that's really all it takes. Very little material needs to come off of these. When that's the case, that just means that everything's seated very well to the fingerboard. I'm not having to take off much material at all. Some of these I'm just grazing over them one time. And I'm getting the crown that I need. I know it's kind of hard to see exactly what I'm looking at from this camera angle. This might be the kind of deal where there's more of an intensive one-on-one lesson type situation where you're paying for the time, and I can give you some instruction on exactly how to do this. This is just to give you a glimpse on what goes into one of these instruments. All right, now it's time to dress the little corners. If you run your fingers along, it's nicely beveled, but I can still feel a little bit of rough in there. And what that is the slight sharpness that's created in the corner of the fret where it makes contact with the fingerboard. So I have a very special file. This was actually a file that was given to me by Gene Matisco. It's basically a feather edge file that he milled down. He made a fancy handle for it. I have used this file on literally thousands of instruments that I have done repair and setup work on, as well as the nearly 500 basses I have built. I suppose the fretless basses didn't get this because they didn't have frets. But when you count basses I've built for other brands and done the fret work, this little tool has seen easily over 1,500 instruments. It's dull as could be, but it still works. And it's very special to me, and I'll keep using this as long as I can. When it finally just goes so dull it doesn't do anything, I'll make one just like it, or as close as possible. So what I do, and what you really can't see, is along the very thin side there are some teeth, some little file teeth. What this allows me to do is come in here and very gently touch and take that corner down. It only takes just a couple swipes. I'm not trying to distort the natural shape of how the fret lays as it makes contact. I'm simply taking off that little burr, that little corner, to create a smooth feeling to the fingers. I've seen a lot of different ways of doing this where things are exaggerated in how they're rounded. And that's cool. It's just something that I never got into. I've done it that way upon request, and it took hours and hours and hours. Razor blade, there's a little bit of glue residue I need to get off right there. That allows me to get in there. I'm going to kick on the air. Turn the base around the other way. Do the same thing. Now I've got a little bit different approach when I'm dealing with frets that are directly over the body right here. I take a much shorter, like a push stroke on each one of these. It's accomplishing the same thing, but I don't have the room to follow through because I don't want to scratch the base. Just to keep it consistent, I'm going to use that method over the entire top of the fingerboard on all these frets. More of a grazing push on each stroke. Get some of that glue residue that got left behind, just getting that out of there. Ebony as a fingerboard is very forgiving when it comes to your fret dress. If it was a maple fingerboard, we would have to shield off this entire fingerboard in between every fret, which is a pain. Ebony, your darker rosewoods, things like that, you don't have to tape it all off. This method works just fine on an unshielded fingerboard. And as I go, I'm just feeling with my fingers. I want to be sure that I am taking that burr off of there. Okay, we're done with that. Now it's time for our sandpapers. We're going to start with some 320 grit. If you get into doing this, you're going to spend a lot of money on sticky back sandpaper. It's going to happen. Alright, 320, 3M, stick it gold, get the good stuff. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over the entire top surface and basically start working out the marks that the file left behind. And it's going to put a gentle, the beginning of a sheen on the top of these frets. Medium pressure. I'm not looking to distort the level surface I've worked so hard to put in. I'm simply refining it. Beginning to smooth it all out. It's important to not camp out too long in one spot, otherwise you can actually influence a dip or a hump somewhere in the fretting surface, so don't do that. Now I'm going to turn and work on the bevel and give everything a gentle round over. right. Once that is all done, we're going to move on to a Scotch-Brite pad. And I'm going to cut a new piece. This is the purple stuff. Works real well. I used to use 4/0 steel wool for this, but that makes a mess. Those little steel wool fuzzies go everywhere, and they can be problematic around the pickups. This is the very fine version of the Scotch-Brite pad. This does a couple things for me. Obviously, it's creating another level of shine on the frets, but it's also helping even out the fingerboard. Right now I'm doing a light circular motion. And again, I've got some little spots where that glue wanted to stick around on the sides of the fret next to the fingerboard. So I'm just going to scrape that off gently. At this point, this should be giving the fingerboard and the frets kind of a brushed look. Looks like you took a wire brush to it or something. This will start to break this pad down. It's normal. I am applying quite a bit of pressure with this pad. And that's alright. I want it to get down in every little groove and get the fingerboard all consistently clean and textured. And then we're going to go in a parallel fashion, perpendicular to the frets, parallel to the neck. Long strokes back and forth on all these, and we're going to start creating a shine on the frets. And again, I keep finding little shiny spots where that glue is wanting to stick around. There we go. Right. Let's see. Here's a slightly used piece of Scotch-Brite. I'll just use that. Go over the beveled side. Now I have these fun little buffing pads that Revlon makes, or made, should I say. Can't find them anymore, which is very upsetting to me. It basically has a buff and a shine side. So I'll use these until they just disintegrate, and then I'll have to go back to using very fine grits of sandpaper, which I can do, but this is such a great time saver. Here's what I do with these. First I go parallel with the frets, kind of teeter-tottering over each front and back of each fret. This is the buff side of this. Now keep in mind, you don't want to do this on an unshielded maple fingerboard. This is going to leave all kinds of that carbide residue, whatever it is, that black stuff, and that will just totally gook up your fingerboard. On ebony, we're going to be able to clean it off no problem. Going over the bevel on each side, and then we're going over the top. Now, after this pass, it's pretty dang shiny. But we're going to take it a step further. I'm going to go to the shine side, and that gets it really shiny. Keep on revealing glue. Earlier in the build, I should have spent more time with the cloth and the acetone. Let me backtrack on this just a little bit. There we go. All right. Turn this camera around so you can see what I'm looking at. It's really having a hard time focusing. That's what I go for. Just a very deliberate looking roundness to the edge of the fret. Everything feels very smooth, so we're good. Next step is to clean this off. Denatured alcohol does the trick. Denatured alcohol and acetone have been kind of hard to find lately. So, you know, if you can't find that stuff, then maybe a little Windex, you know, light water Windex solution. And that can help clean your fingerboard and your frets off. The reason I like the denatured alcohol is that it evaporates very quickly. So I'm not sitting here sopping my fingerboard wet for a very long time at all. This is just cleaning, getting in, getting out, get all that gook off of there. And then, with some real fast passes, with a dry paper towel, it actually puts a finishing little quick polish on these things and brings out just a little bit of extra. What is that? Is that a link to something? Okay. Got a comment in the comment section that's very long. I'll have to check that out later. There we have it. Nice and shiny. It's an Amazon link. All right. So long as you're not spamming me, Eric, that's all cool. We have a clean fingerboard. Now we're going to condition it. Howard Feed and Wax. This is beeswax and orange oil. This does great on fingerboards. It actually works well on the entire instrument if it's an oil finish. So just drizzle some of that on there. And we're going to work that into the fingerboard. Buffing pads, yes. If it's those same ones I was talking about, the Crazy Shine from Revlon, I've seen those on Amazon. I used to be able to get them at a local grocery store chain here called H-E-B, and they had them for about $5 or $6 a pop. I've seen them on Amazon for much more, like 10 and 11 a pop. My wife actually bought one online through Walmart's online retail site, and it cost her $22. It's actually one of the ones I still have. I felt so terrible because I was looking for these things and she went out of her way to find it, but she paid $22 for that one buffing pad. Man, honestly, it's worth it. The amount of time that it saves me and the convenience, it's all there. I'm still spending less on that than I would on multiple packages of multiple fine sandpaper grits. StuMac has their micro mesh pads, and they're really proud of those. So for a while I was sitting on a gold mine. I probably had 20 of those buffing pads, and I probably could have made them last a lot longer. I regret that now, looking back on it. I would use them for 2 or 3 bases and toss them, when in reality I've probably used this one on the past 10 or so bases, maybe more, and it's still getting the job done. With this Howard Feed and Wax, I'm just working that into the fingerboard. And what gets absorbed, it basically drinks it up, and then what won't go in just kind of stands, and that's what you wipe off as excess. The back of the neck might have some dirt, some runoff from the cleaning the fingerboard with the denatured alcohol. Just wipe that off. All right. Now I'm gonna get real picky here, and with a toothbrush I'm gonna clean along the side of every fret on the fingerboard. This gets the last little bit of grime and dirt, whatever dust that could have settled in there, out of the picture. that's that. I'm going to take this tape off. Oh yeah. See that right there? That means you're having a good tape day. I'm really excited about this bass. This is a fun one. This is a Pro Player. We're getting close. We're getting close. We're going to put strings back on it. And we're going to start on the next part where we make the truss rod access cover. We're going to install the electronics cavity covers. And then it's final touches. It's knobs, strap buttons, serial number, signature, and then test playing and video demo for the final send-off. Oh, and I'm going to be making a ramp for this one as well. That'll be a little added extra step that I'm not really going to cover in this video series, but that is something that I do on request, is playing ramps that go in between the pickups. All right, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next installment.